Chapter 2. The Walker kids looked at each other with expressions that ranged from complete despair to outright panic. Their looks said,
"Now what would they do? How could Fat Jagger possibly stay hidden throughout the night? Man, I could really use a Lunchable."
But they had no choice. Mrs. Walker clearly wasn't going to allow any debate on the matter, and she already looked harried enough as it was. So they slowly followed their mother up the hill toward their street, Sea Cliff Avenue, or more accurately, their former street. As they trudged up the steeply sloping hill, Eleanor took one last look back at the bay. That's when she saw a disturbance in the water out near the center of the bridge. At this distance, it looked like a small ripple, perhaps just a swirling current, or a seal, or dolphin. But she knew better. To her, the ripple had looked more like a pair of pronounced colossus lips poking out of the water to get another breath of air. As they followed Mrs. Walker back toward the Kristoff house, the three kids lagged a few feet behind. Brendan and Cordelia were surprised to see Eleanor smiling.
"I just saw Fat Jagger poke his lips out of the water to breathe," she whispered to them. "Which means I think he knows that he needs to stay hidden. If he can just stay out of sight until tomorrow morning, I have a plan to lure him out." "But what are we going to do even if we get Fat Jagger to shore?" Brendan asked dubiously. "Invite him over for a slumber party? Play Twister? Make microwave popcorn and then spill our most embarrassing secrets?" "We could bring him to school," Eleanor said excitedly, totally missing her brother's sarcasm. Brendan imagined Jagger rolling up the school bully, Scott Colurio, between his thumb and forefinger like a booger, and then smashing him to the side of the school building. "That would be pretty cool," Brendan admitted. "Plus, he would absolutely crush it in lacrosse." Cordelia glared at Eleanor and Brendan, but before any of them could say anything else, their mom interrupted the conversation. "Kids, there's something else I have to tell you," Mrs. Walker said, looking a bit nervous. "It's certainly not going to be easy, but it's for the best. It's the reason we need to move tonight instead of tomorrow." The Walker kids stopped and waited anxiously for her to deliver the news. "I know this will be hard for you, and it is for me too," Mrs. Walker said slowly, her eyes looking red and tired. "But tomorrow morning, your dad is going away for a few days, or maybe even a few weeks, to a gambling addiction treatment facility." "Wait, Dad is a gambling addict?" Cordelia asked. Guilt began to stir inside of her as she realized that her first thought was how this was going to affect her. What would people think? Would all the prestigious colleges she hoped to get into somehow find out that her dad spent time in treatment? Cordelia had always focused on her future, doing everything the right way and trying to be the best. But now she saw her dreams quickly fading in the face of this news. Did kids with addict fathers actually get into places like Harvard, Yale, and Stanford? "Dad is going away?" Eleanor asked, her voice breaking. The thought of potentially losing Fat Jagger and her dad in one night was more than she could stomach. "Don't worry, baby," Mrs. Walker said, pulling an arm around Eleanor and trying to force a smile. "It'll just be for a little bit, and we can visit him this weekend. And when he gets back, everything will be so much better. I promise. You kids are so strong and independent. You always have been. I know we'll get through this together." "But what will we do for money?" Brendan asked. "Brendan," Mrs. Walker said, glaring at her son. "Is that all you can think about right now?" Brendan hesitated, perhaps a moment too long before finally shaking his head no, feeling bad that he was more worried about family finances than his dad's own mental health. Of course, there was always the Nazi treasure map that they'd brought back from the book world.